What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today in this video we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of really interesting things, mainly some hints we got about future DLC expansions and the actual locations they might take place in. I've compiled a bunch of hints and secrets about where the story of Destiny 2 is going, to do with the Warminds, the Dreadnaught, and even the Queen of the Reef, in addition to a few other things happening in the game as well. So let's begin with those DLCs. Now, recently the latest edition of Edge magazine released, which is a huge gaming magazine here in the UK, and the interview I talked about recently from Luke Smith about fixed weapon rolls and the endgame was from there. So of course, there's a bunch more info in this article about Destiny 2 topics. Now, one of them that caught my eye was the interviewer asking about the end cutscene in Destiny 2, and they was asking where the story is going for the DLCs and what we might see long-term versus short-term. So Luke Smith, who if you don't know is one of the lead developers of Destiny 2, he said he thinks the development timeframes as broken up into short, medium and long term. The end cutscene also does the same, so the short term stuff is months away, whereas the long term stuff is years away. Now, when he refers to the short and long-term stuff, he is referring to the different parts of this cutscene. It goes to different locations where the Traveler's Light touches, and then he continued to say the first thing the Traveler's Light goes to in the cinematic is Mercury, which is also where the first expansion takes place, which is Curse of Osiris in a couple months from now. So if you really pay attention to what he's saying, is that when asked about future content, he mentions the end cutscene shows both short and long term, and the first place the Traveler's Light touches is the first expansion, so he's implying that this cutscene is a timeline of Destiny 2's future DLC and where the story's going. Now, I actually thought of this theory randomly a couple weeks back that maybe the locations and order of these scenes is the actual order of the DLCs, but I wasn't fully convinced back then. But now Luke Smith saying this in an interview recently does actually make this theory a lot more likely. So the main thing is that the cutscene breaks things up into short, medium and long-term things, and Mercury of course is that first place it touches, which is also the first DLC, so it implies the second scene showing Mars is the second DLC, the third DLC will be on the Reef, and then Saturn for the fourth one, and then years away is the actual darkness with the pyramid ships. He even said that the long-term stuff is years away, which is obviously referring to those darkness ships at the very end of the cutscene, and it also matches with what Luke Smith said a while back in a Game Informer article, how Destiny 2 is not about the darkness, and they have a plan for the darkness which they're working on, and that's going to be in their next project, meaning Destiny 3. So I wanted to go through these locations and why they're significant, and believe it or not, there are a ton of hints already in the game about these exact places, and whether my theory of these cutscenes representing the Order is correct or not, these locations do still have a ton of significance that Destiny 2 hints towards. So the first place the light touches is Mercury, of course, next to the Sun, which we already know is the first DLC, Curse of Osiris, where we're going to fight the Vex and rescue Osiris from them, so that's location number 1. The next shot is out to Mars, which would make perfect sense to be the Warmind themed DLC number 2, and I'll explain exactly why. So there is or was a Warmind on Mars named Charlemagne. Now we don't know if this still functions, but early in Destiny 1's development, you would actually get the exotic weapon Thorn from Charlemagne's vault. That was an idea, and they scrapped it with the whole rewrite of the story, so it never happened. I don't think they actually made any content for it, it was just ideas. But the only official concept art of Charlemagne's vault is this one you can see, which is super old, and it doesn't really represent what Warminds look like right now, but you can tell it's a very early concept. But nonetheless, Charlemagne was supposed to be the Warmind of Mars that Bungie initially wanted to create content for. Now, as further proof of this, the Sleeper Simulant quest back in Destiny 1, one of the parts of the quest wanted you to get data from the warsats on the Earth, Moon and Mars, because crashed warsats are from Warminds if you didn't know. So notice how the one on Earth is called Terra, which is another name for Earth of course, and the Warmind next to it is RSPN, which stands for Rasputin. The one on the Moon, which is called Luna, that is also controlled by Rasputin. You can see the letters RSPN for the Warmind section. And then for the one on Mars, where it would normally say the Warmind name of Rasputin, instead it says the letters CHLM, of course standing for Charlemagne. So that proves he is still a Warmind on Mars instead of Rasputin. Now, this doesn't exactly prove that Charlemagne is the one on Mars and Charlemagne is alive, because it could very well be Rasputin, who we know has control of all the Warmind systems, including Mars. Charlemagne is supposed to have died in the collapse with all the other Warminds as well, and Rasputin is the only last surviving one. Even in the Destiny 2 campaign, Akora says there's only one Warmind, but she doesn't say it with much confidence, so I could see a plot twist down the line where we find out there are more Warminds that survived, and of course Charlemagne being one of them. But either way, there is a Warmind on Mars and someone is in control of it. Now, another bit of even more evidence in Destiny 2 is the end of the Arecibo adventure on the Warmind vault on Io. So towards the end of this mission, an AI very similar to a Warmind apparently takes over your ghost and uses it to relay a message to you, and he says a few words, which I'll play for you right now.
I don't understand. Something's happening. Hey, sorry, I spaced out for a second there. What were we doing?
So we said Mars, red sand, and ice cap. So you can basically bet that the one taken over your ghost was actually a Warmind, because the only thing capable of doing that, and of course it's kind of giving the impression throughout the whole mission. Now the ghost also says two things which are very important during the mission as well. The ghost says it's a golden age AI, which is exactly what a Warmind is, of course, and he also jokes about not liking the new guy, which is implying it's a different Warmind to Rasputin, who of course we have met before. The ghost also says that it does seem like Rasputin would be behind all this, but he doesn't understand how it could be, and again suggesting it's a Warmind but not one that we've met before. So they're pretty much spelling out for us that the location is Mars with red sand and ice caps, and just like Earth and most planets, Mars does have a north and south pole in real life, which are icy and frozen. So Mars does have icy areas, and that is where the Warmind is telling us to go. Now, what kind of reason or threat we have to go to Mars, I have no idea, but I think this evidence is pretty strong, suggesting the second Warmind-themed DLC is on Mars, which is also, of course, the second location in the cutscene. So after Light goes to Mars, the next scene, the next location is the Reef, which of course is set in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. So this could be where expansion number 3 takes place. Obviously, this would pick back up the story of the Queen of the Reef, who is alive, by the way, and her brother, what he's doing with the Fallen, and Variks and the Awoken. Now, my best guess in terms of the enemy and threat would be something to do with the Fallen, because her brother has kind of taken control of them. He's made a deal with the Kel of the House of Kings. So something weird is going on there with Variks and the Queen's brother, and it would make perfect sense for them to pick up in the storyline in an expansion, because they're not going to wait until Destiny 3 to pick up on it. So after the Reef, the next shot, the next location is the Dreadnaught or Saturn. Now, Saturn and the Dreadnaught does also tie into many clues we've gotten of Savathun being in control of the Taken and the Hive DLC, and this is a whole massive topic, but long story short, Savathun, who is Oryx's sister, has basically taken over Oryx's throne and now controls the Taken. Oryx's body is also on Saturn somewhere, which could be something. Of course, the Dreadnaught is still parked inside Saturn's ring, so it's still there, and I really personally hope we don't go back there, but I could also imagine Bungie reusing it and making some new areas on the Dreadnaught. And then on top of that, there is, of course, Titan, which I'm not sure if one of these two moons is Titan, but Titan is right here as well, where a ton of Hive are, and they're communicating with Savathun. So there are, of course, a ton of dots you can connect around Saturn, and it would make perfect sense for the 4th expansion, being Hive or Taken themed, to be here. So after Saturn, we have a bunch of nebulas and debris. I'm not sure if this is supposed to mean anything. I feel like it's supposed to just represent a sense of scale to show just how far outside the galaxy, the Milky Way, to show the darkness ships are out there. So they are really, really far away, which also, of course, matches what Luke Smith said about this being years away in super long-term content. So maybe those 4 locations represent the 4 Destiny 2 expansions, and then that debris and kind of nebula represents the gap, and then to Destiny 3. Also, it's important to note they didn't show the moon or Venus or Jupiter. Just completely skip past them, and especially the moon and Venus, which were in Destiny 1. So my theory is that this cutscene does show where the story is going in order, and it also, of course, makes perfect sense for something to show when the campaign ends. Like, hey, these are the places you're going next. Mercury with the Vex and Osiris, Warminds on Mars, Queen of the Reef, and then Savathun on Saturn, and then Destiny 3 tells the story of the darkness. So let me know what you think of this theory. Honestly, it makes a ton of sense thinking about it, and we could be looking at the Destiny 2 roadmap of content and story, but of course let me know your theories and speculations down below in the comment section about these expansions. So moving on to the next topic, let's talk about everything happening in Destiny 2 recently. So the first thing is that Tess Everest was actually offering a brand new Engram package bundle and actually removed it a couple hours later. I'm not sure why, but it is super random. So the package was the Golden Sevens bundle, which has seen the database for a couple weeks now. So inside it, you would get the Nothing Gold ship, as you can see right here. And this was a legendary ship, nothing too special about it. It is actually new. It looks very similar to a lot of the reskins, of course, because it's just a reskin, but the pattern is slightly different. So that's what it does. And it also comes with that gold shader applied for it. Now, also inside this bundle, you'd get a couple bright engrams and a couple gold shaders. So it was really random. And the thing itself, the package, cost 2,000 silver, which is $20 for 3 engrams, a couple shaders, and a legendary ship. So I'm not sure why they sold this thing. And I'm even more confused why they removed it a couple hours after putting it in, because it was live on reset. And Tess was acting pretty buggy as well. She was kind of offering you a quest or offering you a thing, and then when you go to it said nothing. So I'm really not sure what's going on here. Tess was being super buggy and gave some kind of Golden Sevens bundle, and then it was removed. So there you go. That was the thing that happened today with reset. So as well as that, of course, Iron Banner is now over, and I actually recorded the moment that Saladin left. It was pretty funny because there was a bunch of people that showed up just too late and they missed him, and of course they couldn't turn in their tokens. They were wondering where he was gone. Now, for some reason, our tokens didn't actually get taken away from us, so maybe it will happen in a later reset. They did imply they would be reset soon, so I'm not sure if we'll get to keep them until the next Iron Banner. So of course it was quite a big topic that the Iron Banner armor pieces were quite rare to drop and definitely very difficult with RNG. A lot of you guys were asking me what I got, so I managed to get pretty much every single armor and weapon. The only thing I'm missing is the helmet, arguably the best looking piece, but that is the only thing I didn't get. and I opened up about 17 packages, as you can see. So not actually that much compared to a lot of people, but I got, I guess, kind of lucky, you could say. I know some people opened up like 30 packages and got like 1 or 2, or sometimes no armor pieces. So the RNG system has definitely got a lot of complaints with the token system and how it works. But of course, comment down below how many packages did you open and how many armor pieces did you get. I'd be interested to see your guys' RNG. So there you go, a bunch of stuff suggesting about future expansions and locations, as well as a couple things happening recently today for Destiny 2. So as always, if you enjoyed the video and want to help support the channel, then a like rating down below would be much appreciated. You can click the image on screen right now to watch another video I recently made, and I'll see you guys next one.